So in the story that thankfully will never die, I say thankfully on behalf of the victims of the Trumpstein cover-up story, not because I wish it would just continue forever. I wish they'd release the list, let consequences be handed down to whomever was a guilty party in that situation, and then we as a nation could move on, and maybe the survivors could move on to some extent as well. But as the Trump regime is calling it some sort of democratic hoax, and Trump himself said this, why then, if it's a hoax, why did was a fake letter, a fake demand letter from Trump produced by the White House? Why demanding for Congress to release the files of the DOJ, whoever he thinks, we're talking about the Walter Mitty president. He's a legend in his own mind, but in real life, we don't know what the hell he's doing. He had a military flyover in an attempt to disrupt the press conference on the steps of the Capitol with the survivors of the Trumpstein cover-up, victims of Epstein for sure. We don't know who else. We have a few names. They were not allowed to say the names of people who were on that list for legal reasons, but also why would they name powerful people, perhaps people in political office who would then certainly go after them, and maybe they'd wind up in alligator Alcatraz or in Ecuador somewhere. But meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, this is like the third time since the second chapter of this nightmare began that Marjorie Taylor Greene has made sense. She was MAGA, completely nuts like her Führer. But even Marjorie Taylor Greene, this has woken her up, and she's like, I will do what I can to get the list, and I will read the list of names on the House floor. That's not illegal, because on the House floor, anything can be said, anything can be done. So when Marjorie Taylor Greene is joining the cause, something's up. Meanwhile, another distraction tactic was to release 33,000 pages of files that had already been released. In fact, they were given in cheap plastic binders to certain people who donated a certain amount or bought a certain amount of Trump trash coin or whatever the scam was back in February. So that story continues. But I want to talk, while we're speaking about children who are victims, I want to speak about education for a moment, because it seems that MAGA world is at war on our children. They are conducting a war. And I'll tell you why I say that. I've been, for about half of my adult life, I've been an educator. I've also been a journalist working with the NBA and so on. But one thing I know is that teachers really genuinely, most teachers, not all, no one, you can never say all about anything. Most teachers generally do have the best interest of students at heart, sometimes even more so than the parents of those students. We are not here to indoctrinate anybody, unless by indoctrinate you mean expose them to ideas that perhaps they have not encountered in life before. That is, by definition, the job of an educator. So why are we at war with kids now? Dismantling the Department of Education is clearly an attack on public schools. The local school district here that I have worked for lost $22 million immediately of federal government funding when that happened. How does that get made up? It gets made up by cutting programs. I have often said that Republicans are very, very earnestly interested in children being born. They then don't want them to have an education or a job or health care or now food either, because we've decided SNAP is no longer a thing. So why are you so rushed to have them born if you're not going to take care of them in any way, shape, or form, do the job of the federal government afterwards? Now, here in Texas, trust me, we're a test ground for many things, and this will be one of them. There's a new parent opt-in. A bill was passed here in Texas, and if parents don't opt into this, then the kids in schools, including in high school, this is preposterous to me. You can't see a school counselor. You can't go to the nurse and get first aid treatment. You can't join a club. You can't participate in extracurricular activities without specific written consent of parents to do that. And here I am as a parent, my daughter's in high school, and I'm thinking, why on earth do you want parents? High school is the time when kids, young adults at that point, start to find their own identities. And if they're having an issue on campus, sometimes it's the school counselor that needs to address it, because they know the kids involved, they know the teachers, parents don't. At this age, certainly true of my daughter, kids want to listen more to their peers and to teachers and to other people at school than they do to their parents. It's part of the natural progress of things, and I don't, selfishly as a parent, I don't like it. But as someone who understands the reasoning behind it, I do very much support it and appreciate it. Why do we want to take that away, that little bit of independence away from kids? Why? It prepares them for the real world. And now, on top of that, another test state, another red state, with an asinine governor who's, I think, having a contest to see if he can be worse than ours here in Texas. They're doing away with vaccines. And now, RFK Jr., and I don't know why, and I've called and asked, I don't know why people like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, the leaders of the Democratic Party in Congress, I don't know why they're not calling for this man's removal from office immediately. Because he's saying things that are patently not true. He's working against the best interest of our students with things like vaccines. I'm talking about what we want to have now is we want to have hepatitis A and B making its way through our student population, through our children, who will then bring it home to parents and grandparents and so on. We want to have polio back, diphtheria, the measles. These are things that scientists work hard to develop vaccines, and we've been using them for years. And you don't hear about anybody with polio or diphtheria anymore. You do hear about measles. You know why? Because here in Texas, one place we've decided if you don't want the measles vaccine, I guess you don't have to get it. And now measles is spreading through Texas, and it's almost like, gee, what if we had a vaccine for that? The most comprehensive study ever done was recently conducted by the Annals of Internal Medicine. This report was just, you can Google it, this report just came out. There are absolutely no proven harmful effects from childhood vaccines. None. They do not cause autism. They don't cause Down syndrome or whatever the latest conspiracy theory is. It simply isn't true. Let's stop having a war on our kids. How about that? You can have your little war with Venezuela to try and get people to think about something besides the Epstein files for a second, but let's not declare war on our kids, please, and thank you. I'm a college professor in Dallas, Texas. My name's Bill. As always, thanks for watching.